Hello again. Welcome to another session of the 18th annual Transforming the Teaching and Learning Environment virtual conference. I'm Bob Hales, your moderator. Happy Friday the 13th. Don't forget, we're sponsored by the Journal of Educators Online. If you have a chance, take a look at their refereed articles going all the way back to 2004. There's bound to be something of interest to you. Just go to thejeo.com. We have with us today Steve Hughes. He's a mathematics instructor at Grand Canyon University. His work focuses on helping students and educators use AI as a genuine thinking partner rather than just a faster calculator. He combines mathematics, instructional design, and hands-on classroom experience to develop practical frameworks like intelligent laziness. And I am anxious to hear this. So, Steve, take it away.
All right, very good. Let me share my screen with you guys. And we should be ready to go.
Yep, there you go. We got it.
All right, excellent. Well, welcome everybody to this particular section at 1 p.m. your time, 12 p.m. here where I am in Arizona. Neil's also in Arizona, I believe. And what I'm going to share with you today is the process of using AI to offload the right work so you can spend more time where your brain actually matters. This talk is practical and framework driven, as was mentioned earlier, and I have 4 big ideas that I want to share with you all. So this is not about tools. It says nothing about what AI you're using. It's about how to use whatever it is you're using more wisely. So here is our roadmap for today. We're going to start with what I consider intelligent laziness. A short statement for this is using minimal effort and clever shortcuts to achieve goals efficiently instead of working harder than necessary. So that is our first point, 1 of 4. Our second point is the intelligent hill. This is methodically climbing from your current position to a better one by taking many small local improvements, even if they don't guarantee the absolute best outcome. The third one is the intelligent gym. This is deliberately training your mind and habits through repeated practice, reflections, and feedback so that smart choices can become more automatic. And our fourth objective for this session is the intelligent fool. All right, this is willingly asking naive questions through repeated practice, reflection, and feedback. And lastly, I want to emphasize, again, as I said earlier, these 4 are about changing how we interact with AI rather than adding more tools. By the end of this little session today, I hope that you guys will have a mental map that you can use with AI so you can learn and work with it better. Let's now jump into intelligent laziness. So first of all, our brains, as you guys may know, have a completion bias. In other words, we like that aha moment. When we can check something off our list, we actually get a little dopamine hit from that. All right, what could be an example of that? An example could be maybe you spend an hour answering trivial emails instead of designing a meaningful assignment. Okay, so if we're chasing quick wins, we're going to get that hit, but it's not going to get us where we want to go. So I want to share with you how we can use AI to complete the right task. So the goal is not doing more tasks, but doing more of the ones that matter using AI to offload the rest of the task. So what about priority blindness? I know that we've all experienced this, using urgent to beat important. An example could be this. Maybe I'm doing 20 small tasks, but I'm actually avoiding the big one that could really move the needle. And why do we often do this? Because our brains are biased towards responding to whatever screams the loudest. So the idea in this presentation is to use AI to surface priorities if we ask. It can help us triage, summarize, and highlight what's actually high leverage, especially when combined with the drag framework. And that acronym is what is going to come up next. Before we get to that, I want to explain one thing about diminishing returns. And since I'm a mathematician, I'm going to use some graphs here. If you guys have any questions, just jump in and feel free to ask any questions about what I'm showing to you. Okay, so first of all, more effort does not equal more value. We can use a logistics curve to map this out for us and show us exactly what I'm saying. So check out the curve. Effort is our horizontal axis, value is our vertical axis. As we're going across there, you can see we initially have large gains, very rapid gains. I'm saying right here, as we start here, we can have very rapid gains with whatever we're doing, and then it can taper off to there's no more gain at all. So going back to our phrase intelligent laziness, it means knowing when you're in the flat part of the curve and knowing that it's time to hand that off to a tool, a resource such as AI for maybe formatting, polishing, and doing your grunt work. So today's lesson about intelligent laziness is using AI to offload the right work so that you can spend more time where your brain actually matters. And once again, this is practical, framework driven. I'm hoping to give everybody some actual methods and tools to use, not AI tools, but thinking and researching tools to get something that everybody here can immediately apply and start using for themselves. Does anybody have any questions about this graph or what I'm using its meaning for here? All right, excellent. So in practice, what might this look like? We want to offload the last 60 to 80% of low leverage work. So at this point, I want to invite you guys, you can drop in the chat. I think Bob is probably moderating the chat. I want you to think about one task that you do weekly that could be partially or totally automated by AI. Is there anything you can think of that you do that you can offload? Small grading like DQs. All right, communicating with presenters. Hey, I'll give you guys a little insight since you're here with me, okay? Just you guys, because you're here with me. I offloaded lots of these things that I'm sharing with you right now. Lots of these ideas, such as organization, even the color of the presentation, I offloaded that to AI so that I could focus on the things I actually wanted to talk about instead of choosing some of the things that I was going to communicate with. All right. So I also use AI for grading DQs every single day, DQs, discussion questions in forums for online practicum. So I use it every day and offload it in many ways. All right, so what am I trying to do? Really, I'm trying to protect my time for high leverage thinking. So remember, Bob and I were talking earlier, it's not about laziness in a negative sense, but it's about optimizing where my human judgment is crucial. All right, so to operationalize this, we're going to use one simple framework, which we can call drag. All right, so drag. Let AI pull the weight. We're going to let it do the dragging for us, okay? So we want to know, what does the D stand for? The D stands for drafting. All right, so where am I stuck? Am I stuck in drafting something? Am I stuck in researching something? You can see where the drag is coming in, right? D is drafting, R is research, A is analysis, and G is grunt work. Okay, at this point in time, do you guys have any other ideas where you've used AI in this matter? I'll share with you something that I've used it for. Last year, I was doing some research with the nursing department at Grand Canyon University, and we wanted to analyze the data from 1948. Yeah, you heard me correctly. 1948 to 2025. That's a lot of data. So what do you think I did? I called in my buddy AI here to do some analysis for me to look for patterns and other things that we were wanting to test and study over the past decades in the nursing department. Anybody else have any ideas where they could use it here for one of these? Drafting, research, analysis, or maybe some other grunt work that you come across? Yeah, exactly. When it comes to this conference, I intend to find more ways to utilize AI to do many of the routine repetitive tasks. Right, exactly. Industry standards and hiring skills. Exactly. There again, those are things that we can analyze and research with AI that we don't have to spend all of our brain power on. So it's a good tool for us to use, a good resource. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to zoom into each one of the steps and give some concrete examples, again, of our 4-step process. So drafting, you have the blank page problem. We all know, we've all written, we've all done research. We know that sometimes the hardest part is getting started. So I want to share with you another framework embedded in this draft. It's called AIM. So this is a prompt, just to be clear, this is a prompt that I would use with whatever AI tool I'm using, okay? So the prompt here is AIM. So first of all, I'm going to input the act, okay? What could that be? That could be, I could tell AI, you are a math professor, okay? That's my AIM. That's AIM stands for, A stands for acts, okay? Next, my input, that is what I'm going to input into the AI. I'm going to give it some outlines, some notes, some data, so that it has something to think with. In other words, I'm not giving it a blank page. I'm actually giving it input. And then the last part of my prompt, again, everybody, the AIM is a prompting process, okay? My last part would be the mission. What do I want AI to give me? Should it give me a draft email? Should it give me a lesson plan? Should it give me a policy? Okay, so this is a domain relevant prompt for me that I could use. We have plenty of time here, so I would like you guys to share with me now. What can you think of? I know it's spontaneous, but what could you think of where in your domain you could use this? What could the act be? What could the input be that you would give it? And what would be the mission that you would want AI to give you? You guys have any ideas? Peer review responses. Yeah. All right. Going to attempt to create an applied behavioral science syllabus. Okay. Ramona, that's perfect. So what would your act be? In other words, what is A? Your prompt would be what? What are you going to tell AI that it is? It is a applied behavioral science professor, maybe, right? That's what you could tell the AI tool, whatever tool it is you're using. Okay. Then what would you want to give it, Ramona? If you want it to give you a syllabus, that's your mission, right? That's what you want it to be. So what would you have to give it? Right? Is it graduate, undergraduate, right? What else? But you have to give it something. What do you want to give AI? What would the input be that you would provide for it? The learning objectives, perfect. Learning objectives, time, all the things that you want to put into the core syllabus, right? So these are all the things you would put it. You would give it examples, the objectives, all the things that you want to be in it, so it could then use that to think, right? Learning outcomes, objectives, assessment, all those things that you want to be a part of it. You can't use AI to just make those up for you, because why? You guys heard the hallucination, right? AI likes to hallucinate, right? It'll make up something that you don't want to be in there. So our mission here is to use AIM to focus whatever tool we're using to help it focus on our mission so that it becomes the AI's mission as well. Anybody have any questions here? All right, great example. To identify experts on certain topics like gun violence or homelessness, right? Then, Bob, you could use that to help you direct AI to have the mission that you want to use it, right? You don't have to be the expert. You can pull in other experts, other tones of voice even, to have it use that in your process. In other words, that would be some of the input that you were going to give to your AI tool. Once again, whatever tool that is. All right. So Ramona wants to create a 5-week undergraduate course syllabus. All right. So that'd be perfect, Ramona. That's another thing you have to put in there, right? Because the shorter the course, the more compact the material has to be. You may even need to do some analyzing of what goes into it and change that up as well, from a 5-week to a 7 or a 16-week course, whatever it is you're dealing with. So that's a perfect example. And you could do that by the time we're done today, Ramona, you could have that all done and you could complete that for yourself this afternoon. All right, so we're going to give AI a role. We're going to give it raw material that comes from us. And we're going to give it a goal so that it knows what to focus on. So remember, what is my job? My job's not to give the output. My job is to think clearly about the aim, the act, the input, and the mission. So I can then give it to my tool and have it give me the output. All right, next, what about research? AI is very good at summarization and extraction. All right, so how could I use it here? I could post or paste several documents or links like you all have been talking about. I could take several documents, links, resources. I could post them and submit them to my AI tool. And I can say what? I can say, I want you to summarize and extract, give a synopsis, all these different types of things. And this is what you want it to look for. I want patterns. I want themes. I want contradictions. Yeah, that's great, Ramona. You got to include all that information as well, because once again, the more clarity you give to the AI tool, the more clear, important, and correct your output or your mission is going to be. So these are the things we want to think about as we're putting it into our process. So yes, and some AIs are much better than others at that. Some give you automatic references, some hallucinate references, some make up references. So be careful what resource you're using. That makes a big, big difference. All right, so everybody right here, once again, remember I told you I was analyzing data from 1948 to 2025. That would have taken me forever, right? Forever to do that. So that being said, if I did it manually, like on the screen, it would take me forever. AI assisted, I was able to pull that information out, get it organized in a presentable manner so that I could share it with the dean who wanted to see what was going on. So AI is a great tool for research if, once again, we give it the correct input and ask the right questions. But as always, everybody, we must keep control of the judgment, right? We must treat it as an assistant, and then we must review critically, it's an important word there, critically review what we're getting back from it to make sure it's really what we wanted to say. Okay, so we have D and R. The next one is analysis. This is where we ask AI to be our pattern hunter, okay? We're going to ask AI to look for patterns so that we can recognize things that can be changed, updated, or improved, okay? We could say, suggest patterns or even a hypothesis. All right, we want to request multiple explanations and perspectives. So we could say the value is using AI to generate candidate interpretations that you can test against your original expertise. In other words, what am I saying here? You critique and refine the ideas. AI is going to propose, we are going to dispose, right? AI proposes, we dispose. In other words, it's going to give us ideas. We're going to go through them and verify that they're actually what you want. Yes, asking for references is a very good thing. And some of those references, Margie, will be the input that you give it back in that AIM process. That will be part of the resources that it will automatically, depending on what you're using, give you a reference back to your resource that you put into it. Okay, so we're now ready for G. What was G, everybody? The last letter here, G, is grunt work. What is some boring stuff? Okay, some boring stuff that you don't want to do all the time. Anybody here do anything boring besides me? Am I the only one that does anything boring? Right? I think probably not, right? So how about reformatting, cleaning, rewording, checking? It could be adding bullet points or notes into a paragraph form. It could be generating consistent formatting. It could be rewriting for clarity or tone. All right. This is where, everybody, I have found that we can reclaim hours. For me, it's been hours of my time back so that I could do things that I really wanted and needed to do. All right, so I'm going to batch the boring task. I'm going to give them to AI to do. I'm going to save my energy for decisions and creativity. So that's intelligent laziness. And that is drag, the resource or the analysis that I use, right? The process, the framework that I use to decide what do I want to offload to AI. That's what drag is, okay? Drag is that process. That concludes our first of 4, okay? That's intelligent laziness. We use the drag process and we use AIM inside of drag to write prompts that are meaningful, clear, and beneficial to not only us, but to the output that we want. That's the first of 4. And don't worry, I'm not going to take that long on every one of the 4. I know we've spent some time here. Does anybody have any questions before we move on to the next one? Excellent. Okay, so what we're looking at now is how to recap this and notice that some of our efforts scale exponentially, and such as curiosity and skill building, they're going to compound. And some we're going to offload to AI so that we can expand our obsession zone. All right, so here's a graph, everybody. If you're not mathematical in nature, you don't remember what this is called. This is an exponential curve, right? What does it tell us? That tells us that we don't have a cap. This output can be growing basically indefinitely, right? It can grow and grow and grow and keep expanding and becoming more. All right. And we are contrasting this with the logistics curve, which was this one, just to recall. You guys see the difference between the two? This one is when we are growing using AI to offload the whatever we're doing, whatever job, task, contract, whatever it is we're doing that doesn't have the outcome or the results that will actually keep growing, but they're going to level off. They're going to come to a point in time where they don't grow anymore. Okay, so we want to give this to AI. We want to keep this for us, the skills and the items that just keep growing and growing. The goal here is to let AI shrink the low return chores so we can spend more time on our zone of obsession. All right, now we're going to go to the second big idea, which is the intelligent hill. All right, here is an image of the intelligent hill, and I'm now going to go through these steps one by one so we can understand what this is, the meaning for us today. First of all, I want you guys to understand that AI is not a calculator, okay? It's not. AI is a probability engine. What does that mean to us? It means that AI is guessing likely contributions based on patterns in the data. All right. What does that mean to us again? It means that my instructions, your instructions, and my examples, my input are heavily going to shape the output. Okay. So that's why it's so important that we have the proper material input so that the probability engine knows how to work for us. Okay. So the rest of this session on the intelligent hill is going to be how to move up with better prompting techniques. Okay, so better prompts get us higher up the hill. Better prompts, higher up. First, what if we do zero prompt engineering? What does that mean? Write an email. Terrible prompt, right? Terrible input. Better, write a friendly email to a student who, right? That's a much better prompt. But still, this is zero prompt engineering. What does that mean? Do this for me. That's a zero engineering prompt. Okay. So the prompting is thinking work. The better you frame the problem, the better the output that we get. So that goes right back to our AIM prompt that we talked about just a little bit ago. Okay, vague prompts, vague answers, vague input, vague output. So we must bring content, context, constraints, and examples. What's better than this then is one-shot prompting. What is one-shot prompting? That is where I give one example of a good mission outcome. Remember, AIM, what was it going to act like? What is the input and what is the mission? This gives it a mission example, okay? So I'm going to use one from my domain, okay? What could it be? I want to create a quiz question. I want to create a rubric. I want to create an email. So I take mine that I've already done and I give it to AI and I say, this is your example. And I want you to create something along this line. Okay. So I'm going to ask AI to follow what I've already done, right? This is not blind zero shot prompting. This is me setting up the example for AI. So I can go from one to many, and this will prepare me for the next step, which is even better, which is few shot. So what is few shot prompting? Provide 3 or more examples. Here is a syllabus I've already created, right, Ramona? Here's one I've already created. Here's another one I've created. Here's another one I've created. Please look at this and help me by giving this input for the new syllabus to create the one that I want for this new 5-week course that I'm creating. That way it will keep all the important, it will analyze, research your work and create in the likeness that you created for it to follow. All right. So you're going to ask it to describe the pattern from your work that you gave it. You're then going to generate more within that pattern. And here's an example of what can happen. So how does this help you? It helps you in the model clarify the standard. And this is where, again, we're going to reduce hallucinations and off-style outputs. Have any of you ever gotten something back from AI that you didn't want at all? Does that anybody else have that happen? I have definitely. I've put in there and it's giving me back things and it says this, and I say, no, no, no. That is not what I wanted. And hallucination is where AI goes off on its own and creates something out of its, remember, probability model that it thinks is valuable, but really to you, it's no value at all. So hallucination is a made up result from AI using its probability from wherever it's getting its multitude of resources around the globe. All right, so you're welcome. We can ask AI to give us a chain of thought. We can ask it to reason step by step. All right, so a prompt might be to AI, explain your reasoning step by step and label each assumption. Okay, this is especially useful when you're creating something or when you're in math or logic or creating policies or teaching contexts, right? So if we're teaching reasoning, making policies, we want AI to explain its reasoning step by step so that we can then be clear on what it's doing and what we're doing. And then guess what's left for us to do? After we've asked AI to do this, then we must inspect the reasoning chain. Okay, what does that mean? That means we must critique, always critique the steps and not just accept the final answer. So when you ask AI to explain this reasoning step by step, you say, no, that's not what I was expecting. This is what I need here. And you can change it and it will go back and rework the process. And while I'm thinking about it, everybody, here's one hint that I use all the time, and that is make sure you have an account with whatever AI tool you're using so that it knows your work and knows who you are and can see clearly everything you've been doing beforehand. It makes a big difference in the outcome that you get. All right, we can also have AI agents, and that is, who would we hire? This is a much more detailed process, which I know you guys are familiar with. This is not part of the presentation. It's not how to create them, it's how to use them. All right, we can treat AI as multiple specialist, researcher, analyst, drafter, editor, all these different things is what AI can do. You can have them cross-check each other, and then we decide what we want to keep, what we want to merge, or what we want to discard. Okay, so the key point here, everybody, is that this is a mental model and we don't need any complex tooling to get started with this. We don't have to get any special courses or concepts. We can start with what we have right now. All right, that is our second. We're on to our third now. Our third one is the intelligent gym. All right, so what is the intelligent gym? It is information versus transformation task. This is huge. In case you've never considered this before, this is huge. All right. So first of all, let's explain the difference. Information task is about getting facts. Okay. AI is very good at that. What's a transformation task? That's about changing how you think or believe. Okay. So if I'm looking for information, I want to remove the friction. I want to remove the friction by giving the proper input that AI can transition smoothly through and give me the output that I want. If I want to transform, if I want to change my thinking or my behavior or my abilities, I want to then increase friction for transformation. In other words, with AI, we want to speed up transformation task and be productive in difficulty or transformation task. We want to increase the friction, and I'll show you that here in just a little bit. We're actually going to set up a 4-step AI workout next. So again, information is about knowing. We want to remove friction. Transformation is about changing. We want to increase friction. Here's how we can do this. First of all, we need to study the concept, okay? Ourselves personally, study the concept. Then we want to go to your spotter. This is like in a gym, right? Picture yourself lifting weights. AI is your spotter, all right? But we still have to lift the weights. So we're going to use the spotter and we're going to paste the concept or task. And then we're going to have AI quiz us. We might say to AI, quiz me until I can explain this concept clearly. Do you guys see the friction we're adding here? The resistance? We're not asking AI for an answer. We're asking it to quiz us. And we're going to stress that this is shifting AI from an answer machine to a practice partner. So We're not just taking information and pasting it somewhere else. We're actually learning by adding the friction or the resistance to the concept we're studying. All right, so here's how we go. We start with the concept. We go to AI, we increase the tools, and we get the output, okay, by asking AI to quiz us along the way. So here's how we could do this. We could say, quiz me like I'm a high school student. We could say, quiz me like I'm a college student. In other words, I'm increasing the difficulty and I'm going to change the tone. Grill me like I'm an executive interview, like I am at one. Or we could say, challenge me like an irate boss would, right? Maybe we have some process we want to work through, an objective. This is how we can add resistance or friction and become better at our tasks that we're doing. Okay, so I want to encourage you, everybody, literally, these aren't just hypothetical, this is literal. I want to encourage you to paste these words for words as prompts when you're learning something about any concept that you want to learn. This is the gym, right? This is where we go to the gym and we literally use these. Ask me like I'm a high school student. Grill me like I'm an executive. Challenge me like you're really irate, okay? This can be used for teaching, right? Teaching anything, for a presentation, or for a tough conversation that you might have coming up, or asking for a raise, or anything you want to improve at. This is an ideal method to use this ladder, these four modes, to increase your abilities. Anybody have any questions here? All right, so here's a challenge for everybody here today. Take one concept. Remember, let's scroll back just a second. Take one concept back here. Take one concept that you want to learn, that you want to improve on. If you're teaching, maybe it's the lesson itself. Maybe it's a broader topic. Maybe you want some in-depth understanding about it. So you're going to go and you're going to take that concept. You're going to go to AI and you're going to say, what? Ask me about this like I'm a high school student. What would that be doing, everybody? If you as a college, a university professor are saying, ask me like I'm a high school student, what's that really doing? That's saying make it simple, right? Make it simple. Take this challenging concept, which I'm trying to learn because I want to share it with somebody else, make it simple so that I can then think simply and I can share it in a simple manner so that the complex becomes more simple, right? As a math instructor, professor, that's my whole objective. Take the complex and make it simple. You can bump that up by asking for more in-depth knowledge. You can bump it up even more, and then you can bump it up even more until you are very professional, very strong, using the gym idea on any particular concept that you want to learn or share. It could even be for your own health. All right, so think of this ladder. Next time you want to learn something, think of this ladder and how you can climb up it, right? The first rung being like a student, high school, college, an interview or a position, and like you're actually being challenged by somebody who's irate at you, and you can really find things coming out. You'll be surprised how this will come back to you. All right, and the very last concept for this particular lesson today is the intelligent fool. All right, if you're not feeling stupid, you're not learning. All right. Pick one thing and ask to be taught. So everybody who's here, put one thing in the chat box you might like to be taught on. Any concept, topic, anything in the whole world, what's one thing you could be taught on? Just go ahead and drop it in the chat box. String theory. There you go, Bob. String theory. Excellent. Cantonese. Okay, we want to learn a new language. Excellent. How to change a car battery. Very good. Welding aluminum underwater. Tennille wants to learn about her husband. That's great. You guys have some great ideas here. Okay, so here's the challenge. Just have fun. Take that and say, okay, explain welding aluminum underwater as if I'm 12 years old. But what if I'm only 8? What if I'm only 5? Explain underwater welding aluminum like I'm a 5-year-old. All right? Normalize this. In other words, make it normal. Play the fool. This will help us all to expose gaps in our understanding. Ask AI 3 times to make it more and more simple. Okay? We're going to tie this back to how we're going to partner with AI to accelerate learning, not just finish tasks. Do you guys see this step we took here? The intelligent Jim, the intelligent fool is not about getting answers from AI. It is about teaching us to think more clearly, more simple, more streamlined with whatever concept we want to use so that we can then go and share it with somebody else. Okay. This is not AI doing the work. This is AI grilling me so that I can now know how to work with Cantonese, learn Cantonese. I can learn about relationships. I can learn about welding. I can learn about changing car batteries so that I don't hook up the positive with the negative and the negative with the positive. And you say, oh, Ramona says, I'm going to go change the car battery. Comes back 15 minutes later, I just blew up the ECU on my car because I hooked up the positive, the negative. So I should have got some resources first and learned about it a little bit beforehand. All right, so here we go. Simplify, simplify, simplify. Okay, that's the intelligent fool. We want to tie this back again to accelerate learning. We want to add resistance, not just finish a task. We want to learn to reveal our gaps in thinking, understanding, so that we can then share it more clearly, more simply with other people. Okay. So everybody, try this tonight, today, sometime. Pick one project you're stuck on. We could go back to the syllabus. All right. Identify each drag step. All right. Is it my design? All right. Is it my research? Is it my analysis? Is it the grunt work? I want to identify the steps and I want to write one improved prompt. So just try it with anything you could do, can think of, right? What is one thing I could do? How could I improve it using the aim? Remember, aim, what it's going to act like, what is my input, what is my mission, so that I can then write one prompt, okay? So here's what I'm going to do. How much time do we have left, Bob?
Yeah, about 3 or 4 minutes.
Okay, 3 or 4 minutes, everybody. It's your turn. Okay. What I want to encourage you to do is this. I want you to write one prompt before you leave in the next 3 or 4 minutes that you could use to help yourself with any one concept that you want. Once again, using the AIM process, act as, input, mission. Everybody take about three minutes, whatever we have left here, and see if you can write one thing that would give you a better prompt. If you're stuck, let me go back here to where we were several minutes ago. Act, input, mission. Remember, my example was, all right, I'm telling AI, you are a math professor. That's A. Input, what am I going to provide? Here's what I'm going to provide. That's the I. The next part of my prompt is going to be, what should AI produce for me? In other words, what is the mission of this prompt? Everybody try doing anything you can think of, any concept you want to, and just go ahead and type in the chat box if you feel like you're ready to do so. I'll go ahead and put mine in the chat box just to get everything started. All right, good. There you go. Good. Good, Margie. Provide a list of job titles a graduate ed student can consider. Include job skill. Okay, fantastic. Tennille can take a syllabus and materials, create a friendly study. Good plan. Excellent. All right. Ramona says, I'm an online instructor. I want to create, I might turn that around, Ramona, and tell AI you are, okay? You are an online instructor. All right, excellent. Fantastic. All right, so that brings us, everybody, to the end of our presentation today. I'll pull it down here to the very end just so we can remember where we started off with. I'm just going to fly through here and bring us down to the reminder. Here we are. We're going to use AI to reclaim our time and attention. We're going to climb the intelligent hill with better prompts. We're going to train in the gym. We're going to play the fool so that we can increase our intelligent laziness, our intelligent gym, and our intelligent fool activities. That is it for this process, everybody, in this presentation. Thank you all for joining me today.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, one of the things I've been trying to do in the last year is read a lot of good prompts, and so I do a better job creating my own prompts. And that's really the key. Plus, the more you do this, the better at writing prompts you get.
Absolutely. You want to be direct and informative and not just, zero prompting. You actually want to give it resources. And so that's excellent. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you taking time to do this. Uh, you've given me some good ideas to work on. I appreciate that.
You're very welcome.